Took a while, but Simlab finally sent me the Simlab XP1 pedals for review. I have an affiliate link with them, and all opinions, as always, are my own. And this is one of those situations where the driver part of me and the reviewer part of me go into very separate directions in terms of conclusions, and you'll understand a little bit later on why. But before going there, a big thank you to all the viewers, members, and subscribers that basically make these reviews possible. Without you, nothing like this would be possible. I'm also trying to get 100,000 subscribers. It's really not that far away. If you press that like and subscribe button, that would help a lot. Thank you so much. The Simlab XP1s have been around for a while now, and they have quite a cult following. The pedals are built to a really decent standard of finishing, high quality metals, beautiful, beautiful design, very simple to use, straightforward, toolless design. The throttle and clutch are Hall sensors, and the main brake is a 200 kilo load cell that can register up to 100 kilos of pressure in the pedal face, likely due to pedal geometry. The regular pedal set with the brake and throttle will cost you around 500 euros, or if you want to get the clutch, this will be around 200 by itself. However, Simlab is actually running a quite aggressive discount on these at the moment. You can get the pedal, the throttle pedal, and the brake at around 400 at the moment. Inside the box, which I think it's way too big for what it is, there are, besides the accessories, lots and lots of bolts, including these nuts of many, many types, few springs and elastomers without having to buy anything separate. You also get the controller for your pedal set. You get a few cables as well for the RJ types, a long and a short, so you can mount them the box in whatever way you want, if you want to leave them loose, or you can mount them directly into your rig. Aesthetically, these are really pleasing pedals. It's one of the most beautiful pedal designs, if not the most beautiful pedal design out there. And while in installation, if you just look at, at the bulkheads, the main structure is not very different from what the Weising belt is. So because you have this two metal sides and then the components sandwiched inside, if you want to just boil it down to that. I think Simlab took that basic design and took it to the very next level of industrial design. The materials chosen feel absolutely premium in the way they feel, they touch, and they are colored, anodized. And also the choice of the colorways, for example, over here with the yellows, the anodization of the blues, also these washers and caps, really, really nice. At the front, at the face, everything is built out of very, very sturdy metal. Even the small details over here with the retainer pin, everything looks pretty good. For mounting, these pedals are extremely wide. Side to side, they are around 10 centimeters. That meant for my particular sim rig, the Simatic K1, I had to do a bunch of things to make sure that this was compatible with it. It's not something that is a problem from the pedal set. Most modern pedal trays should have it, even if it is on your sim rig or if you buy them separately. Also, Simlab sells separately a tray that you can use for this. There are also other details in this pedal set. The pedal set is mostly toolless, as are all the stacks in order to change everything. If you want to change the brake stack, the throttle stack, or the clutch stack, it is very easy to do. It's literally a breeze. It's very similar to what it's used on Acetec. There's this retainer pin at the side. Just lift them up and then you take that out. The retainer pin, leave it on the side, and then you remove your brake assembly. You remove whatever you need to do. You can also, with this, you can change the angle of the brake stack or the throttle stack to make it stiffer or to make it lighter. So lower is lighter, higher is stiffer, and then move it back again to the position that you want and put the retainer pin inside. This is really, really a breeze. That's it. You can add a little more compression to your preload spring. You can also at the front reduce or increase the throttle or the clutch or the pedal movement, for example, if you want to make it longer or shorter. But pay attention, there is a limit for the Hall sensor how much it can read, because you can go past over it and then the the Hall sensor won't really read the movement past a bit. You'll have a complete dead zone that you cannot calibrate your way out of. This is a fantastic built pedal, though I must say that in my unit I had a few control issues in terms of tightening from factory. The throttle, for example, came slightly untightened on this bolt and on this bolt over here. That made it have a clanking feel that got worse as I used it. In the beginning, when I unboxed it, I couldn't see any issues whatsoever with the bolt, but as I kept testing them, they became looser and looser. Also, for the brake, these two bolts, one over here and one over here, were also a little bit untightened. So when you brake, especially on your brake face, you put a lot of force into your brake face, and the brake face was moving at the angle. So I've contacted Simlab and said, well, there are some issues with the tightening, and apparently they are going to investigate it. The software is called Race Director. It's very straightforward, even though it's really not that pretty. Essentially, you have to activate the devices for Race Director in order to appear. It's the only software that I think it works like this. Simagic, Acetec, Fanatec doesn't really work like that. As long as it's connected, it's going to be detected, even if you use it or not. So if it's not really appearing here, you have to activate your pedals or whatever peripherals you have, so it will appear on the side. For the use of it, it's fairly straightforward, though I find that there is one thing missing. But anyways, it is really easy to calibrate your pedals. You put your pressure where you want. You can create your curves. You can save your profiles for different cars or for different types of uses to make it easy for you. Can add your dead zones as well. Very easy to activate your dead zones. Just lift it a little bit or decrease it a little bit, and that's basically it. It's a fairly straightforward setup. However, I am thinking from the experience that I've been using other pedals as well, that for the brakes specifically, there should be some sort of a load cell max pressure. So it will be easier to get the load cell to the point where you want, instead of calibrating your load cell to the pressure of your foot, because not every single time your pressure is the same. So it will always be off by 1, 2, 3, 5%. If you can get like a number, and from that number you work out your own braking, that would be good. Other than that, Race Director has nothing really special for it or against it. So I'm really curious how this is going to be with the new wheelbases coming soon. I did say that the reviewer and the driver me disagreed, because in the reviewing part of this pedal set, there isn't really anything wrong, but you always have to remember when somebody is doing a review, they talk about objectives and subjectives, and this is where the part of the driver me kinda has problems with this pedal set. Not that there's something wrong with the pedal set, it's the way that my muscle memory is built over years and years using multiple types of pedals. And this pedal set has for me a critical flaw that will probably affect 10 to 20% of people. If you are already, eagle-eyed, you can watch it. If not, let me tell you what's going on as we warm up the tires, and it will be kind of obvious in the hairpin. So I want you to look at the bottom right, especially at the brake stack as we are going for the brake. And we're gonna brake. And that's basically it. You probably have noticed, basically the brake stack, namely the elastomer, is fully compressed to the point where it starts to buckle. And this is a problem. This pedal set doesn't have any stopper inside, and I'm using the stiffest elastomer. I'm not putting more than 60-70 kilos in this, probably even less than that in the pedal face. And that 70 Shore elastomer is already buckling to the point where it goes past spec, and for me this is a huge issue, as I'm going to explain. Now, the way I have this is set up is that I have the softest spring, because I want, in some cases, for example here at the Le Mans section, you just want to get the 20% to get the car rotating. You don't want to brake like 100%, so you can use the brakes to make the cart pivot as you use the brake bias, and also as you upset the cart through the corners. Sometimes you just want to use the brake to do small corrections or deviations in your line. And then you want to use more of that if you want to brake like in a straight line over here at Sebring. And then you release for the trail brake and you start making the car rotate. Now, the issue that I have with this, and this is the most comfortable setup that I found, stiffest spring with the softest spring with the stiffest elastomer, is that no matter what I choose, because of the way or the amount of pressure that I put, and there's really no other way to do it. You can even do it. You can try to change the angle of the brake, but that won't really matter that much. Is that when you go past that trail braking phase and you want to return after you basically maxed out your brake, the return becomes mushy. And it becomes mushy because the elastomer is essentially already fully extended. It's fully depressed. It's already past specifications. Elastomers have specifications of how much they should compress, and if you go past that specification, when they return, the speed that they return is totally different to the speed they compress, and it also becomes in a way that is kind of weird to discern between the spring and the elastomer. Everything becomes really, really mushy. And this is the pedal set that I've most felt this problem. I've used lower end pedal sets, for example, the Fanatec CSL Elite V2s, the CRP2s, even Simpson pedals, you know, with that brake stack. None of them have this issue. You can understand what every single stage is doing. You feel that there's a good progression. You don't feel mush. And the problem with the mush when you return is the trail braking becomes difficult because you're not only braking from the legs, the elastomer is doing something and the pressure is not really coherent, and that's really important. If you don't understand if your force is being put in the same way as the load cell is receiving it, that becomes kind of a problem. And for me, that generated a huge issue with lap times to the point that I have not seen in any other pedal set. I've done tests with, you know, the Sim Talentos that I've used, the M Booster, the CRP2s, Fanatec CSL Elite V2s. They were all within a tenth of a second. This pedal, because of my muscle memory, and I need to tell you, it's my muscle memory, but I still, as you know, the driver doing the review needs to tell you, it would put me always outside over 2 to 3 tenths of a second in the same circumstance. While with the other pedals, you are within 1/10 of a second, which means it's just a little bit of training. And with this, of course, you can train around the problem, but you are changing your muscle memory too much, so it becomes kind of an issue. There's a clutch, so we need to test the clutch. The clutch, much like the throttle, it's incredibly smooth. The throttle is super smooth in its movement, and so is the clutch. The clutch has a bite point much at the top. For example, the Fanatec V3 tends to be more in the middle and more pronounced. This has a very subtle but defined bite point at the top. You understand there's a bite point there. And on the Fanatec V3s, on the CRP2s, for example, they tend to be a little more pronounced and brute. This one is really smooth. I like this clutch and I like the throttle. Ironically, believe it or not, driving with the 3 pedals with the clutch makes for me more sense. I have more pleasure driving this pedal set in a manual car than I do in circuit racing, which I wouldn't think it would be the case. With this pedal set, I thought it would be the complete opposite. Generally, driving these cars, we drive in a different way when you brake. We do use the heel and toe. You brake more with your right pedal than you do with the left. You still brake with your left leg, so you end up braking in a completely different way. And also the performance and the way that you drive or you extract pleasure out of this, it's also a little bit different. If I would do this again for this type of driving, I would change the elastomer to the medium one to have a little more travel or to have a little more compliance into it. But it is a fact for me that I'm not braking in exactly the same way as I did with Le Mans Ultimate. Le Mans Ultimate, you tend to brake in a very precise way, in a very rapid way, and here we tend to be, you know, the cadence is totally different, and this pedal set works better in that way, which is, for me, not something I was expecting, because in the way the pedals are marketed, it's more for circuit racing or thereabouts, and I wasn't really expecting to get actually more pleasure driving the cars with this pedal set around Akina downhill here in Assetto Corsa. I thought that would go to Le Mans Ultimate. Oh, that's gonna be like really easy to use, and it wasn't really basically the case. But here, man, driving with the 86 at Akina downhill, it makes actually quite a lot of sense, and the pedals are actually, in this sense, really, really good to use. To conclude my rant of the elastomer, here it is after a week and a half of use, about 30 hours more or less. As you can see, it's already barreling over inside. It's exactly the same. It's deforming already with such small use. This is the 70 Shore elastomer. It's already like this with very light use. That means within 6 months to a year, this elastomer will not respond to the way that it was new, and that is a problem. This will start either to rip apart or will start to have a completely response curve that it's totally different from when it's new. But let's compare it to the one that I use every single day in my IMSIM Talentos. Even though it is dirty, it's straight as an arrow. Doesn't have any issues whatsoever. And I went to figure out what type of shore this elastomer is. This is a Fibro 2461. You cannot see it. It's just barely impressed at the surface. And this is also a 70 Shore pedal. This is rated for the IMSIM Talentos for 65 kilo, and it's still straight. As a reviewer, I can say that I really like these pedals, even though there were a couple of shortcomings regarding the tightness of the bolts, and that was basically the only major issue I've had with it in terms of quality control. If you look past that, what we have here are really well designed pedals. They're pretty pedals, they're sturdy pedals, they're quite easy to configure, all things considered. They are toolless, and the price isn't really that bad. However, the driver part of me couldn't like them at all, or maybe I should rephrase that. The driver part of me would probably like this way better if they redesigned the brake stack to somebody of my type that uses a lot of the hip to brake. The brake stack design with such a short single elastomer, where even the hardest elastomer buckled and overstressed past the spec when braking, made it hard to me to like this pedal set. Even the Ace-Attack Invicta with that small brake distance didn't give me this lack of feedback and response. The Sim Racing Pro's GT3 EPs are even shorter in stock form, and I had no problem with them as well. Sure, I can retrain, there's no doubt about it, but I can't but feel if I have access to other pedals, for example the Simpson pedals, that even though they're much cheaper, the brake design for me is superior, or even the IMSIM Talentos that are the ones that I'm using at the moment. And you can already see on this one specifically that the elastomer is already starting to warp in about a week and a half of use. And I'm already 1/10 or 2/10 slower per lap with this, and it's something that I can measure. Then really, what's the point? I'm pretty sure this is not an issue for 80 to 90% of drivers out there that will not brake like I do. But the reviewer part of me also needs to tap into the driver part of me and warn you about this flaw or this design choice, because it will be likely for those drivers that will jump something into this and will have the same issues that I had. It is really sad, and if there's a revision of this, either as a new pedal set or basically just an adjusted thing that you can drag and drop into this,